For those who aren't as old as me, you didn't live through the 80s, let me just give you a quick history lesson on Lech Walesa. He was the leader of Poland's first independent trade union during the Soviet occupation. He founded a group called Solidarity. They stood against the Soviet oppression at a time when you do this, I mean, it could be fatal. Lech Walesa became so popular that he was elected Poland's president in 1990. He knows a little something about communist oppression. He also knows who it was that was standing there fighting for freedom against the iron fist of socialism and communism right beside him, the United States of America. Well, here's some audio of Lech Walesa. He just said through an interpreter about the United States. He was giving a speech here in the U.S.
The United States is only one superpower.
Dziś przewodzą światu.
Today they lead the world.
Nie ma nikt wątpliwości.
Nobody has the doubts about it.
Militarnie.
Militarily.
Przewodzą ekonomicznie, choć słabną.
They also lead economically, but they're getting weak.
A nie przewodzą moralno-politycznie.
But they don't lead morally and politically anymore.
Świat nie ma przywództwa.
The world has no leadership.
Stany były zawsze ostatnią deską ratunku dla innych narodów.
The United States was always the last resort in hope for all other nations.
To była nadzieja. Gdziekolwiek się źle działo, zawsze można na Stany było liczyć.
That was the hope. Whenever something was going wrong, one could count on the United
Dziś
States.
straciliśmy tą nadzieję.
Today we lost that hope.
It is painful to hear something like that from this man. Sometimes the truth hurts, but the truth is what we need to hear. He was asked in the interview that he sat down for with the Republican gubernatorial candidate in, I think it was Illinois, if he felt like the U.S. was beginning to move more towards socialism. Here's what he said.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like that issue with those banks. So this indicates that it is a little bit in this direction. The private entrepreneurs, they are more fragile, they are wiser when managing the money and running the economy.
Państwo wszystkie pieniądze zniszczy.
The government will waste all the money.
Robi się biurokracja, buduje się.
They just build the bureaucracy.
He says we're moving a little bit. He mentioned the TARP bailout as one example, but one completely failed example. Neil Barofsky, he's a special inspector and special inspector general of the TARP program. He says policymakers still have not even addressed the fundamental problems that triggered the financial crisis. He said, and I quote, "It is hard to see how any of the fundamental problems in the system have been addressed." He added that the substantial cost of TARP will have been for naught if we do nothing to correct the fundamental problems. In our financial system, it could end up in a similar or even greater crisis in 2 or 5 or 10 years' time. He warned in this new report that in his view, little had changed to head off another financial crisis. Quote, "To the extent that huge interconnected, too big to fail institutions contributed to the crisis, those institutions are now even larger, in part because of the substantial subsidies provided by TARP and other bailout programs." He also said, and see if this sounds familiar to you, that the mentality of these institutions to take reckless risks through a, quote, "heads I win, tails the government will bail me out" mindset is even more prevalent now. You think? Sounds like he thinks the TARP bailout has failed. Yet, not only did we do a second package we called a stimulus, but now we're about to embark on a third stimulus package. But that's not what they're calling it. Next. Former Polish president and anti-communist leader Lech Walesa said America is no longer the last hope of Earth, and that we're moving a little towards socialism. It's a sad truth, but look at what's going on now. We've got a new jobs program, but, you know, it's a stimulus program. I mean, you can call it a 10-minute miracle for the economy's abs program, but it's not going to work because we can't spend our way out of debt. It's common sense. We also have abandoned free market principles, as Bush said, to save them. Let the free enterprise lead the way, but they won't in Washington, because too many in this administration and in Congress on both sides of the aisle don't believe in the free market. People like Ron Bloom in the administration.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
Thank you.
We know that the whole point is to game the system, to beat the market, or at least find someone who'll pay you a lot of money because they're convinced that there is a free lunch. We know this is largely about power, that it's an adults-only, no-limit game.
And that Mao was pretty much right. This administration has seemingly abandoned capitalism, the system that brought us the greatest prosperity the world has ever known. Did greed play a role? You bet it did. Obama and his people want to blame every problem we currently have on our free market system, but they won't blame any or give any of the kudos to all of the great things that came from it. They won't also blame the government for its intervention or the role Congress played in enabling government-sponsored entities like Freddie and Fannie to spiral out of control. Isabel Sawhill, a budget expert at the Brookings Institute, told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The spending freeze is only going to affect a tiny slice of the budget. The PAYGO rules will make it more difficult for Congress to dig the hole deeper, but it's not going to affect the currently projected red ink. And the commission will likely be a paper tiger. In short, these proposals will still leave us with unsustainable deficits as far as the eye can see." Unsustainable deficits. Jeez, who's been talking about that for a while? Oh, I remember. You have. Now listen, here's the thing. Lech Walesa was partly right. Which part? You have to ask yourself. We've moved toward socialism? Just a little? You ask and answer those questions. And answer this one. How secure is your freedom today? We'll be back. Do you ever lie awake at night and think, man, I just wish I had a juggler on hand to help me explain the role of government interference in our lives? Yeah. Or maybe just a big pile of monopoly money to make sense of foreign debt. Lucky day for you. Look no further. Just record this show or DVR it every day at 5 p.m. Eastern. I mean, I'm there for you, baby. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. I think I made most of the audience just throw up in their mouth just a little bit. There's nothing like a little Glenn after hours. Did it again. Remember, midnight snack and a side of me. They took away my M&Ms and they replaced them with grapes because of the war on chins. I am grossing America out like crazy. Make sure you join us every day. DVR or record the show, 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm losing the war on chins. Have you noticed? It's a bad battle. Bill O'Reilly and I went out this weekend on our first leg of the Bold and Fresh tour. It was simulcast in movie theaters nationwide on Saturday night. And if you weren't able to come out and see us in person, here's just a little bit of what people got to see.
Nancy Pelosi, I swear, does anybody else think that Nancy Pelosi is beginning to look a little like Skeletor? Is it just me? Am I remembering her more fondly, or has she had like massive plastic surgery lately? And every time she blinks, it's getting so stretched that I feel like it must hurt when she blinks. Ow, 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 ow.
That was one of the more serious moments, too. You still have one more chance to see it in a movie theater near you tomorrow night, and then we're headed out to Los Angeles next weekend. Oh, yeah. No better way to spend Valentine's Day, or the weekend at least, night before Valentine's Day, with me and Bill O'Reilly. Trust me, guys, you're going to look really, really sexy by the time you get out of there. No, seriously, your wife, you may walk in with your wife, and she's like, really? You? Valentine's Day? But then we do all the work. We gross her out. She looks at you and she's like, you're a catch. I'm just saying. Go to boldandfreshtour.com for tickets. And let me tell you one extra thing. Traveling 2 days with Bill O'Reilly, I learned a lot about him. And Bill, if you don't behave yourself, oh well, I'll tell America. Oh, from New York, good night, America.